Let's do business now. I am Beverly Broom, finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Agbloyor believes reviewing pension contributions would not be favorable for employees. The National Pensions Regulatory Authority says it supports proposals for workers' contribution to the SNIT scheme to be increased. It follows concerns about the sustainability of the scheme if drastic measures are not taken to review contributions. According to Professor Agbloyor, the current economic hardship facing the country will make it difficult for this to happen.
Conversation for us to have, but I think there are other things that we need to discuss. Okay, what are the returns on the investments of these pension funds? If pension funds are able to earn sufficient returns, make high returns, invest optimally, a conversation on increasing the contribution for pensions may not be necessary. Okay, so one, we need to look at the efficiency of their investments. We need to look at the efficiency of their operations. Okay, if they are operating at very high cost, again, that reduces the amount that can go to pension there. So the efficiency of the management of these pension funds are also extremely important. In terms of the performance of their assets, which is one of the key things to determine the sustainability of a fund, the macroeconomy is also important. So last year, this year, we've seen that the economy is not doing well. It has a big impact on pension funds, particularly the domestic exchange program has affected pension funds severely. And that is one of the things contributing to the unsustainability of pension funds today. If the pension funds can actually invest well and generate sufficient returns, we don't need to increase pension contributions. If they can manage the operations very well, we don't need to increase pension contributions. If they enforce, i.e. ensure that the contributions that employees have taken to pay on behalf of employees are done, again, we may not need to increase pension contributions. And increasing pension contributions now may be something that may be difficult for employees to swallow, especially given the current economic challenges. I foresee that labor unions may probably actually agitate against an increase in pension contributions at this moment.
Now, financial economist Professor Lord Mensah is making a strong case for the National Investment Bank to be taken over by a strategic investor rather than the Agricultural Development Bank. This was after it emerged that government is considering financing ADB to take over NIB. But Professor Mensah maintains that with government's current financial position, it is not a good idea to support ADB to take over NIB.
To have that kind of strong financial muscle to absorb, NIB. If you look at the NIB's balance sheet clearly, you could see that most of their loans, that are impaired are with contractors who are working for government. And so it's kind of a cycle that has, weakened NIB. And I believe ADB being a government, bank, also government-oriented bank, is also in the same, situation. So putting the two together is more or less a way of continuing, with a weakness. So for me, it's not the best option. What government can do is to get an external investor to put money into NIB, to revive NIB.
Moving on, Ghana Cocoa Board has announced that the 2023-2024 cocoa crop season will start from this week, Friday, September 9, as against the initial date of October 1. The decision was taken due to recent disruption in the internal marketing of cocoa, as well as to safeguard the interest of cocoa farmers. Bloomberg has also warned that the country could record its worst harvest in 13 years. Here's a report.
of swollen shoot virus disease in top-growing cocoa regions, including the Western North. According to Bloomberg, the country could make its lowest harvest in 13 years, a development that could affect income from the export of the commodity. The Ghana Cocoa Board has in recent times struggled to fulfill some cocoa contracts, forcing Cocoa Board to postpone the supply of about 44,000 metric tons of cocoa beans for future harvest. It is expected that government will on Friday announce pragmatic measures to address the challenges in the sector, including smuggling.
Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says government is working to raise $1 billion funding to support the Bank of Ghana's balance of payments by the end of the year. The move, according to him, will address issues confronting the central bank and the banking sector at large. Mr. Ofori-Atta said his outfit is working to meet all the requirements necessary for the release of the second tranche of the IMF funds. He was speaking at the Ghana Investment Promotion Centre's CEO's breakfast meeting.
The breakfast meeting brought together CEOs across various sectors of the economy to deliberate on ways to increase investment for private sector growth. Mr. Ofori-Atta said he's hopeful Ghana will pass the next IMF review this month to pave way for the release of the second tranche of funding. He stated that this will put the country in a better position to attract more investors to partner local businesses.
There are a lot of conditions to be met, but that's what we are here for. What you call performance indicators. So the quantitative performance indicators, about 6 of them, indicative targets, about 3, and then some structural benchmarks. But I think with all of that, we've got a long way to be ready for the mission that comes at the end of September, so that we can try and get a staff level agreement while the mission is here, and then go to the board in November for the release of the second tranche, which will be $600 million. In addition to that, certain things we also need to do with the World Bank, so that we can get our DPO, which will be another $300 million. So I believe that we are on course to maybe get $1 billion by year end to support the Bank of Ghana's balance of payments issues.
On his part, the Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, said his outfit is working to attract more foreign direct investment. He also called for more public-private partnerships.
What, for me, is the important part is the partnership with private sector. That the public sector supports the private sector to grow. That is key. If that happens, and the Director General of the SIGA did mention, but he did say that his core mandate is to ensure that public sector performs in accordance with our desires to make sure that the private sector can perform well.
The breakfast meeting was held under the theme Public-Private Partnerships, Bridging the Gap for Inclusive and Sustainable Economic Development.
Now, the Economist Intelligence Unit is warning Ghana and some other African countries that headline inflation will remain high, fueling public discontent in 2023 and 2024. In its Africa's operational risk outlook, the UK-based firm said the elevated headline inflation will be driven by high global commodity and food prices, local currency weakness against the US dollar, among others. Here's more.
The report said inflation continues to run high as subsidy regimes buckle under the fiscal strain. This will fuel public dissatisfaction over worsening living conditions and could manifest itself in the form of frustration against affluent foreigners and attacks on private property. Additionally, a continued sharp rise in price growth could result in a decline in living standards and an increase in public frustration as wages have not risen as quickly as inflation across the region. This makes it harder for poorer households to purchase basic staples. ERU furthered that the situation is crucial against a backdrop of entrenched widespread poverty and high unemployment across most parts of Africa. It added that protests could push workers employed by large manufacturers to coordinate large-scale strikes to demand salary increases.
Now, International Advertising Association's African Rising Conference has opened in Accra. The conference, which hosts some of Africa's most influential marketing communications professionals, will deliberate on how brands can leverage on artificial intelligence, sustainability, and other key areas in delivering value. This report has more.
Of the Africa Rising Conference played host to some of the most influential marketing communication professionals from across Africa and the rest of the world. This year's edition is themed Building Future-Ready Brands. It will focus on how brands can take advantage of emerging global trends such as artificial intelligence, ESGs, and other key areas that will influence the growth of businesses across the continent. The Minister for Communications, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, called for reforms in the public sector to project brand Ghana.
Innovation must be at the heart of public service delivery. Our institutions must make innovation and forward thinking the norm and not the exception. The story that says that this is how we do it in this organization must give way to the new story of this is how we ought to do it to be future ready. This is why the recent innovation of digitization of public services represents such a breath of fresh air, and we must all embrace it. It's also why those who resist innovation and fresh ideas in public service must be moved to make way for the forward thinkers who are keen to build future-ready brands.
Vice President of IAA Africa, Norco Dia, urged businesses to leverage emerging technologies to deliver utmost value for consumers.
Well, at the moment, it is the new thing. It is a new in. And I think it leverages on whatever is happening. And it's for us as as industry practitioners to understand the dynamics and its impact on us. So today, for the 2 days, we're going to delve into it. We're going to hear from global perspectives, how it has impacted businesses, for us to also understand what Africa is up to and how we can dovetail into it as we think about building our future-ready brands.
The president of the Advertising Association of Ghana, Andrew Aka, urged African leaders to create the enabling environment to foster the growth of African brands.
This paradigm shift can only happen when leadership on the continent harnesses a deep faith in the vision of the incredible prospects on the continent. Our governments will need to unquestionably play a central role to empower creative thinkers, stir up entrepreneurial spirit of small businesses, and lead with courage. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfTA, has set the pathway for this to happen. Let us get to work.
The 2-day conference, which will be held at the Kempinski Hotel, will host various presentations from seasoned marketing and brand experts from across the world.
Now, some players from the health and pharmaceutical industry are concerned about the rates at which the current economic challenges are affecting their operations. According to them, much has not been done to support their operations and calling for more collaboration from government. Specialist obstetrician and gynecologist at Midway Hospital, Dr. Gifty Kwanza-Ngiza, says import duties and exchange rate fluctuations are affecting them. She spoke to Joy Business at an inauguration of the hospital's renovated theatre and labour ward.
On average, about 6% of its GDP on healthcare infrastructure. Meanwhile, players within the sector say much is needed to support the pharmaceutical and health industry. According to Gifty Kwanza-Ngiza, more private-public partnership is needed.
So that really is more of a, you need to have some government commitments. Private enterprise cannot do it by itself. You have to have some goodwill, because getting financing on your own is quite difficult. Interest rates are high, and so if you get And the equipment are also quite expensive. So you need to have some form of legislature that helps health care facilities to be able to get loans at better interest rates, to get more advanced technology, because healthcare is evolving. You require new advanced state-of-the-art equipment to diagnose cases, and they're expensive. And so without that goodwill, it makes it difficult for private facilities to be at par with government ones or to be on the world stage.
Midway Hospital says it will deliver a consistent, personalized service that will exceed client expectations.
Now, players in the real estate sector have appealed to financial institutions to support Ghanaian developers to help them compete with foreign companies operating in the industry. According to them, most investors are quick to help foreign companies, neglecting the efforts of Ghanaian real estate players. The Chief Executive Officer of Agazi Homes, Thompson Aisa, made the appeal after he won the ultimate prize at the 7th edition of the 40 Under 40 Awards.
The awards ceremony, which was held in Accra, brought together business owners and investors across various sectors of Ghana's economy. Chief Executive Officer of Agazi Homes, Thomas Aisa, was adjudged the overall best businessman. He used the occasion to appeal to investors to support young entrepreneurs striving to be competitive.
For real estate business in Ghana, I can say it's 50% okay and 50% not okay. Why? Because all the big men or the Ghanaian men think of supporting the foreign investors than the local investments. Therefore, I say our old men who you are calling 60 years, 70 years, 80 years to be ungrateful. They are not helping the young guys to grow up. Because imagine somebody is building something like a 5-star, let's say, apartment in Ghana here, and he's a Ghanaian. Because he's a Ghanaian, they will not patronize.
On this part, the CEO of Sodus Communications Limited, the organizers of the event, Richard Abe Jr., underscored the need to celebrate young achievers and encourage them to grow.
Okay, so the essence of 40 Under 40, as it is that you celebrate young achievers, you understand? And I was telling you that we've gone across, the continent. I think we've gone out of this, we do it in South Africa, now we have it in the United Kingdom, and then it's also on the continent, which is Africa level. Now in 2025, we want to do a global one. And so here we are honoring young people, people who are excelling in real estate, agriculture, technology, and all that. And the thing is that we believe that the youth are the people that you have to honor and encourage them. When you do that, they can make progress and all that. There's also what we call networking among them. In fact, you find them greeting each other and all that. What they do is that they connect to each other in different businesses.
You're still watching Prime Business here on Joy News Prime with me, Beverly Broom. Let's take some international news. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Inner Tourism Expo Ghana, Emmanuel Treku, has called for a concerted effort in the promotion of local tourism. According to him, the involvement of corporate organizations and the media in the sensitization of some local tourist sites could support government's efforts in making Ghana a destination for tourism in sub-Saharan Africa. Here's a report.
The 2023 Inter-Tourism Expo Accra is the leading tourism and trade show to be hosted in Accra, capital of Ghana, under the auspices of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. The show will promote brands, destinations, products and services, as well as the Ghanaian culture. Exhibitors, buyers and trade visitors from the globe are expected to be hosted at the event, which will be held from the 20th to the 22nd September of this year. The event will also host thought leadership conferences with reputable international speakers from around the world. Emmanuel Achirekun, the CEO of the Inter-Tourism Expo Accra, explains the need to encourage local tourism.
Zima in GH, which these are all roadmaps and activities that we are harnessing to bring the destination to bear and to sell it to the world. So I think that they are doing their bit, but then we need the support of the Ghanaian populace, because we cannot deliver these attractions that we are not engaging in our own local tourism. I keep saying that Ghanaians, we are not comfortable with the tourism space, but then if we are all of us can even go to our various hometowns a year, and then we say that we want to know what the attractions are, what the cultural elements are, in terms of our villages or where we come from. Then we will also sell our tourism activities within that environment.
Mr. Achirekun further that collaboration with academia and relevant stakeholders would boost the creative arts economy.
There has not been that kind of collaborations within our academia. That's why we have looked at it from that point of view, because what I see is that once they are trained and they come out, they go back into academia, but they are not coming to practice. So it's left in the hands of the informal sector, and we need to bridge this gap. Once that is done, I think it will bring to bear how we can sell it and how we can also promote it into the international community.
Dr. Johnson Edu of the University of Education, Winneba, emphasized the need to package and export Ghana's cultural values to the world.
If we can package whatever we have and export, it would work. It will help us, because some of the Westerners can pick our content, embellish it, and give it back to us. I keep saying that we are culture. You as a person, you are dance, you are music. You see what he did? Yes. And he was using his body even to create the whole music thing. So we don't have to limit our scope in terms of tourism.
The 2023 exhibition will host about 100 exhibitors and over 300 B2B visitors, with a focus on connecting destinations to Ghanaian travel market. The move is supported by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and the School of Creative Arts, University of Education, Winneba.
On that note, we end business tonight, but you can read more of our stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I am Beverly Broom. Sport is next with Razak Musbah. Please stay.